Hello students, welcome to the new session of our English class. Today we will deal with a new poem that is Animals, and the poem is written by Walt Whitman. It is actually extracted from Song of Myself in Leaves of Grass. First of all, let us read the poem. Animals. I think I could turn and live with animals. They are so placid and self-contained. I stand and look at them long and long. They do not sweat and whine about their condition. They do not lie awake in the dark and weep for their sins. They do not make me sick, discussing their duty to God. Not one is dissatisfied, not one is demented with the mania of owning things. Not one kneels to another, nor to his kind that lived thousands of years ago. Not one is respectable or unhappy over the whole earth. So they show their relations to me, and I accept them. They bring me tokens of myself. They evince them plainly in their possession. I wonder, where did they get those tokens? Did I pass that way huge times ago and negligently drop them? Walter Whitman. Now, before going into the explanation of the poem, let us learn a little about Walt Whitman. Walt Whitman was actually an American poet. He was an essayist and journalist too. A humanist, he was a part of the transition between transcendentalism and realism, and he incorporated both views in his works. We can see very clearly in his works the incorporation of transcendentalism and realism. Whitman is among the most influential poets in the American canon, and he was often called the father of free verse. In an age when all poetry was rhymed and metrical, Whitman made a break with tradition and wrote a revolutionary new kind of poetry in free verse. He was a nonconformist in all respects, including his social life. In this poem, the poet Walt Whitman has shown a very beautiful comparison between human beings and animals. He has also pointed out several characteristics present in both these creatures and has very lucidly pointed out the evils that are present in the human brain, which according to him does not exist in the animals. That is why he thinks that the animals are much better than human beings, whom he finds complicated and false. Now let us go into the explanation of the poem. First two lines. I think I could turn and live with animals. They are so placid and self-contained. I stand and look at them long and long. Here, the meaning of placid is calm or peaceful, and contained is keep up control. The poet says that he wants to live in the world of animals. We can say that Walt Whitman finds the world of animals better than that of human beings. He further says that he finds animals more peaceful than human beings. He says so because animals do not run after worldly things like human beings. They are calm and have no greed for worldly things or any sort of achievements. They are self-contained. That means they are happy with life and never interfere in the lives of others. Humans, on the other hand, have the habit of interfering in the lives of others. So, poet thinks that animals are better than humans for being calm and not interfering in the matters of others. The poet further says that these are the reasons why he stands still and looks at the animals for a long time. Moving on to the next lines. They do not sweat and whine about their condition. They do not lie awake in the dark and weep for their sins. Here, the poet says that unlike human beings, animals don't complain of any sort of misery. They are quite satisfied with their state of living and never make any complaints. They never cry out loud like humans do to show what losses they have borne. Further, they never keep awake in the dark, that means at night, and keep crying in repentance for their wrongdoings. This means that animals are different from human beings because they don't show anger or grief if something wrong happens with them. Moving on to the next. They do not make me sick discussing their duty to God. Not one is dissatisfied, not one is demented with the mania of owning things. Here, demented means mad or disturbed, and mania refers to excessive or unreasonable desire. Here, the poet tries to say that animals are very truthful because they never boast of their good deeds done in the name of God as human beings. He says so because most of the human beings do this. They try to show their good deeds and religiousness to others, and they do so in order to gain popularity among their fellow beings. So the poet thinks that animals never irritate him by doing such things just to gain some praise from their fellow people. He feels that the animals are not dissatisfied like human beings. They stay happy with whatever they have. They never run behind worldly things. They never try to possess things of comfort or luxury. He says that none of them is mad behind owning the worldly things. Not one kneels to another, nor to his kind that lived thousands of years ago. Not one is respectable or unhappy over the whole earth. So they show their relations to me, and I accept them. They bring me tokens of myself, they evince them plainly in their possession. Here, the poet says that he has never seen any animal showing his devotion to anyone by bowing down in front of the person. They never do so even for their ancestors. They do not show devotion towards God like humans do. No one among them is more respectable or important as we have in human society. In human beings, rich people are generally given more importance and are treated with more respect as compared to the poor. But in the society of animals, they never do so. They never give more or less importance to any other animal. Everyone in the animal world is happy. They are not like human beings who find themselves the happiest or the saddest person on earth. Further, the poet says that animals are more honest in showing their relations with other animals. Here he wants to say that animals use other animals as their food and they never tried to hide this, whereas human beings show that they have nice and friendly relations with others, though the reality is opposite. The poet says that he accepts the fact that animals are true towards showing their relation with other animals. Here, Kneels means bow down. Evince means show or reveal. Possession means ownership of something. And tokens refer to qualities. Last two lines. I wonder where they get those tokens. Did I pass that way huge times ago and negligently drop them? Here, the word tokens refer to the qualities like emotions, kindness, truthfulness, and such other virtues. In the last two lines of the poem, the poet tries to introspect himself. He asks from where the animals got those good qualities which were once present with the human beings. Now, those qualities are found missing in case of human beings, but those qualities are found to be existent in the animals. He further questions himself where his own good qualities were gone. Did he leave them or had carefully lost them somewhere? The qualities that were found in human beings in the past are now seen in animals. He wonders that humans gave up these qualities and that they had earlier and have passed them on to the animals. Let us recapitulate on what we learned in this poem. In the poem, the poet expresses his feelings for the animals, and he brings a comparison between the qualities of animals and the qualities of human beings. The poet says that animals have good qualities like being placid and self-contained, which he finds missing in case of human beings. And he therefore, because of the presence of these qualities, he wants to live with animals. And therefore, he observes the animals for a long time. For a very long time, he observes the qualities of animals and finds attracted towards them. He says that animals never complain about their condition, whether they are in misery or any problem they face in their lives. They never make any complaint. They are very much satisfied with their Lord. They are very much satisfied with their conditions, and therefore they never make any complaint. They even do not lie awake in the night and keep repenting for their wrongdoings. In fact, animals never do anything wrong because they do things naturally. Whatever is in their nature, they do things accordingly. Therefore, there is no condition of doing anything wrong, and therefore there is no necessity of their weeping for their sins as the human beings do. Human beings deliberately commit sins, and afterwards they repent, and that makes them very restless. In case of human beings, we find that there is dissatisfaction among them. Then there is a there is a tug for the owning of certain material things. That means human beings are quite materialistic, and therefore they always try to possess more and more material things, and perhaps therefore they approach God, and they offer their prayers and duties towards God. But in case of animals, since they are never unsatisfied with their life, and they never go after those worldly possessions or pleasures, so there is no question among them to discuss their duties towards God. In case of animals, we find that all are equal, unlike human beings. In human beings, we find that some are rich, some are very poor, but in case of animals, all are same. And human beings, they bow down before their superior. That means they have to show their respect for their superiors. They have to kneel before their superiors, before their ancestors. But in case of animals, we don't find such things. Animals never consider others to be big or small. They think that all are equal, they all have the same blessings, and they all exist contemporarily, and they all are equal so long as they survive on this earth. Therefore, they they are not at all unhappy while during their period of stay on this earth, and therefore they do not feel the necessity of showing any particular or respect towards their superiors or other animals. While approaching the poet even, the animals show the same gesture as they do to other animals. They are very natural, very innocent, and the poet too accepts the gestures made by the animals. Earlier, human beings used to possess certain virtues like emotions, kindness, generosity, truthfulness, etc. But with the passage of time, those things began to be found missing in animals. But they were very clearly and loosely seen being possessed by animals. Now the poet wonders how animals possessed those qualities which were earlier found in human beings. Maybe that long ago human beings began to forget these tokens of love, innocence, truthfulness, generosity, etc., and he moved on by dropping them, and those things were picked up by animals, and now the animals possess those tokens instead of human beings. The poet actually introspects and finds that those qualities which should have been present with human beings are now present in the animals, and it is really very sad that those things are found missing in the human beings who have a mind to reason, a mind to think. By now, I am quite sure that you must have been quite thorough with this poem and you have understood the poem quite well. Please go through the poem thoroughly 2-3 times. Try to understand it and try to write down the summary by yourself. At the same time, I would also urge you students to make use of the words that you come over newly in this poem in writing while you practice literature. It may be in any subject, but if you can make use of these words, then those words will get permanently engraved in your minds and you can use them properly whenever required. At the same time, I would also like to urge you to introspect yourself and see whether the good qualities are present in you all or not. And if not, try to develop those qualities now and make use of them in your day-to-day life, and definitely our lives will become much happier. See, the introduction of every poem or prose piece or anything in a particular class is very meaningful, and they are introduced to give certain lessons, to teach certain lessons to the students, and this poem has been introduced to teach us that there were certain qualities which were found in sufficiency among the human beings, but those things are found non-existent in them. Therefore it is high time that we made the existence of those qualities possible, and we have to make use of them in our day-to-day life and practices. Do one thing more, students. Try to find out some points which are really very meaningful and necessary, and see whether those things are applied in the general way in human lives or by human beings or not. Make note of them and write down in your copies and show it to me. So thank you for now. See you in the next session.